This is the pre-lab video for the copper sulfate hydrate lab. First you want to find the mass of a clean and empty evaporating dish. So you're going to read that mass, write it down, and then you're going to add about 2 grams of your blue copper sulfate hydrate crystals. Now it doesn't have to be exactly 2 grams, but whatever mass you actually use, you have to write that down. I'm not going to zero my balance. I'm going to take that number. Right now it says 52.90, and I'm going to add 2 grams in my head, so 52.9 plus 2 is 54. So I'm going to add 2 grams of my copper sulfate. Now we're going to review how to set up the Bunsen burners. I'm going to show you 2 styles. One is the style that has the gas on the side, and then the air inlet is here. So you add more air by raising this barrel up or down, and you change the gas by opening this or closing this. The other style of burner has the air inlet. It's literally like a little shutter, I guess you could say. So you have to kind of hold the barrel still, and then you crank that open till you can see the air, and this would be closed. So we want to have air open, and then similar to the other one, this has the gas open and closed. Alright, so remember you want to attach I'm going to set this one aside. You're going to attach that hose to the gas. Make sure the cord with the tube isn't going to knock anything over. You want to set up your space so that you have room. Now you're way out in the corner, you want to clear your space. You want to check your height. This is a little high because we want to be heating our evaporating dish maybe about here, because we don't want to have a huge flame. But on the other hand, we want to heat gently, so we don't want to be heating too vigorously, because then we're going to actually end up decomposing our substance. Now there's 2 ways you can heat. One is if you have a larger ring, to put a wire screen on top and then balance this on top. The trouble with this, I always feel like this is so tippy that it's going to fall over. So another option is to use a smaller ring if you have one. So if you look at have a smaller ring here that's a smaller diameter, and you can check before you get it all set up, see if this will fit safely inside. So that looks like it'll fit and not slip through, and it's down far enough that's not going to tip over. So I'm going to use this smaller ring. You want to keep that on nice and stable. And notice how my tube is not wrapped around anything. I have this sitting on the base for stability. This is over the burner, and then I'm going to check my height. I'm going to check my height before I start my experiment. Okay, I'm going to make sure that's on real tight there. Okay, now just some tips about evaporating dishes. They get very hot even though they don't look hot. So if you need to manipulate your evaporating dish, you can use mitts if you feel like you have good hand-eye coordination. So just some tips on picking up an evaporating dish using some tongs. This method works, but it's tricky. You have to balance this. It's very slippery on the bottom. So I don't recommend going from underneath with the crucible tongs. It's very awkward. Then another method is to turn the crucible tongs over and grasp the rim. You have to watch out though, because some of them it might twist. Okay, so what I would do is, if you're going to grasp from the top, just have a supporting hand like this, just for guidance. That would be my recommendation. Okay, so now we're going to light our burner, and we're going to slowly heat our copper sulfate until it turns white. So to light our burner, we're going to turn on our gas, and that's a pretty high flame. So I'm going to turn my fine gas adjustment down a little bit. And my evaporating dish is a little bit crooked, so I'm going to use my tongs to kind of put it straight. And I want to make sure that the flame is directly under the evaporating dish, and that's a pretty good height. So it's not way down super low, it's not super high. And as I'm heating, I'm going to raise this up a little bit. We want that blue to be turning white. So you can, throughout the heating, you want to actually heat gently. So I'm actually going to turn my gas down a little bit more. And you can kind of see it's turning white around the edges. That's a good thing. Okay. You can use your scoopula to kind of gently break up your solid, because remember, we want to keep exposing the blue copper sulfate hydrate to the heat. And we want this to turn white, because that's going to indicate that we've broken those bonds for the water molecules. You might actually see some of the steam coming off, and we don't want the compound to start turning brownish. So if I start to see some of it turning brownish, I can do one of a couple things. One, I can lower my flame even a little more. And if I feel like my flame is just really hot and I need to do some major adjustments, I can actually grasp the base here and move this safely out of the way. Okay? And then I can come around, and this will still be hot, right? So this way, so see how it's looking a little bit greenish brown. So I don't want it to turn brown. And the reason why I don't want to turn brown, think about our reaction, we are starting with blue copper sulfate, and we don't know how many water molecules are bound into that hydrate. And when we heat this substance, we're driving off the water, and so the remaining compound will be white. Okay, so this is the pure anhydrous copper sulfate. But if I heat too strongly, I'm actually going to end up with copper sulfide. It's going to start to decompose, which is going to be a different reaction, and that's going to be this brownish green. So we don't want that to happen. So we want to heat gently enough to break this bond, that weak bond there. We don't want to heat so strongly that we make copper sulfide. So you're going to keep heating. So I'm going to go ahead and return my Bunsen burner under the evaporating dish and keep heating until this is pretty much gray. It won't be like beautiful white. It'll be sort of maybe a grayish white. Okay. So let's pretend we're all done now. I don't want to totally ruin it for you. Let's pretend we're all done. So remember, we turn off the gas at the gas jet, and this is still hot. Okay, so there's no rush. This is your chance to collect your data. You know, write down your data, read ahead on some of the questions, start answering some of those questions. Let that cool down. After it's completely cool, so you can bring your hand slowly. Ooh, I still feel it's hot. Bring your hand slowly. Ooh, it's still hot. Okay, go ahead and wait. When it's totally cooled down, then you can take the mass. And after you take the mass, the procedure says that you can see what happens if you scoop out some of your solid. Now, mine's not totally heated, so we're going to pretend we're done. You can scoop some out, place it on the base of the ring stand, and add a little deionized water using a pipette. So I'm not going to show you, but you're going to and see what happens, and then you can wipe that down. You want to do that on the base of the ring stand, not in the dish, because the process that you're going to see is going to be very exothermic. It's going to release a lot of heat, which will could crack that evaporating dish. And remember, the evaporating dishes are very slippery, so when you're all done, you can wash your dish in the sink. And I find that most accidents happen when students are washing their dish in the sink because it's so slippery, it just slips out of their hand. All right.